In today's video, I'm gonna tell you how I doubled my painting business. Before I moved to Colorado, I had a painting business in Florida, ATR, clever name, that's my initials. So first year in Colorado, I increased our business by 15%. What happened? Well, before I came to Colorado, I took a year off. I went and worked for my brother and I learned some crucial things that I was missing. First thing was systems. I didn't have good systems. I didn't have a CRM. I didn't have good follow-up systems in place. It was just lacking in every sense of the word. Second thing was these three key things. So tracking, employees, and overcoming fear. So tracking kind of goes back to systems. They overlap a little bit, but you have to be able to track where you're spending your money, how effective that money is. That specifically is relevant to marketing and getting your name out. Employees, we had an employee-based system, which is okay, but it's just not ideal, especially in the kind of business that I'm in a service-based business, because your cost just fluctuates a lot. And so we changed that to a subcontractor model. And then the last thing is just fear. Fear kind of plagues everyone in some way. And one of the things that I realized is I was just afraid of something new. I was afraid of taking chances. I was afraid of stepping out into something I wasn't completely comfortable with. Anything that is new, you're not going to be good at, and so you tend to be a little bit more fearful. So after I took a year off, I learned some of these things. It really enabled me just to have time to think and ponder and figure out what the next steps and really build a business plan and actually go out with a mission rather than just reacting to things coming to me. Now I'm going to go over how we were able to increase our revenue from year one to now 150%. All right, so I want to go over some of the important metrics that we track here in Colorado. I'm going to start with lifetime value, LTV. So what that is the amount that one customer purchases from a business. So for instance, Starbucks, average customer spends over $6,000 at Starbucks. So what that means is Starbucks can spend about $1,000. Honestly, they can spend whatever they want. But if they spend $1,000 on a customer, they're still going to make $5,000 on the lifetime of that customer. So here at Robinson Painting, we actually, first year in business, lifetime value was $4,400. And so that's not bad, but it's also not great. When we first started, we were trying to just get the ball rolling, get some momentum. So for instance, we had a $500 minimum and that kept our LTV a little lower than what we wanted. So now we actually have an LTV of $6,000. So the benefit of that is I'm able to spend more than an average painting company to be able to acquire a customer, because I know that every customer that we acquire, we're gonna on average make $6,000 for every customer. Another important metric to track is your close rate. So for us, close rate is the amount of people that we give an estimate to and they decide to move forward with their project. So our close rate first year was 39%, which honestly isn't terrible. It's 40% is probably about industry average. And so we still want to improve on that because we want to be above the average. So one of the things that we were able to do is increase that to 41%. You can say, well, hey, that's not very much. It's only 3%, which is true, but that's about 17 jobs. And with an LTV of 6,000, that's over $100,000 extra in revenue just by having a better system in place. So a couple of the things that we were able to do to increase that, one, we were able to do more estimates, which doesn't inherently increase the close rate. You could say, well, that could lower it. But what we were able to do is put a better system in place. We put good follow-up emails in place, good text message follow-ups in place. And so we just really nurtured those opportunities a lot better. And we were able to increase that without spending any more time, actually reducing the amount of time we spent at the customer's home. So initially we were spending an hour at every customer's home, which felt a little bit more intrusive. And it was a little bit more of a sacrifice for the owner. And one of our principles is lessen the sacrifice that the potential client has to go through. So one of the things that we were able to do is lower the estimate time to 30 minutes. And then we were also able to increase the amount of people that said yes by showing that we valued their time and giving them the important information that they actually wanted. So another important metric that we track is scheduled estimates. So one of the great things about that is we were at 503 and now we are at 869. And so if you also take into consideration the close rate, that's a pretty substantial growth because this is growing about 58%. And then on top of that, we grew the close rate by 3%. So as we talked about already, that's like $100,000 extra value that we were able to bring just by increasing the close rate. But we were also able to increase this by 58%. And the way that we were able to do that, one of the things we already mentioned, we were able to shorten the amount of time that we spent at a customer's home. So we were able to double the amount of estimates we could do in a day. But the most important thing we were able to do is I hired a full-time driver. It's a little bit, out of the ordinary for someone in construction to have a driver, but it made a lot of sense because now I could hire a $15, $20 an hour driver rather than a $100,000 salesperson. And I was able to focus on the systems and refine that. That's not a long-term plan. We will scale and have salespeople in place. But these past couple of years, I've been able to really refine our sales process and make it as good as possible. And obviously we'll continue to improve on that. So with the driver, I'm able to sit in the back seat, do all the work that needs to be done. I can work on the business, in the business, keep everything flowing well. And he drives me around to all of my appointments. So I'm not losing that time in between appointments, which on average is about 30 minutes. So that's about 4 to 5 hours a day that I pick up in productivity. All right, so we went through all these numbers and to get to the good stuff. So the first year we were able to generate $800,000 in revenue, which is fantastic. That was more than we generated in our previous business on our best year. And we did that year one with great systems in place. But the awesome thing is several years later, we were able to grow that to $2.2 million, which is a substantial increase, 150% increase. And along with that, we were also able to keep our margins really tight, increase our profit. All of these metrics that we track here, and we track some other metrics too that are important, but at a high level, these are going to be some of the most important things to keep an eye on.